Betty and Veronica 2019. Having read Archie Comics from the pre-90s, I remember them as silly, fun comics that weren't too heavy. Sometimes they would include a morality issue like not making assumptions or something, but they kept it pretty light. Well, things have changed. First thing you notice is the art is below average. It's not what I would consider ready for publication. The colors are flat and uninspired, but I don't think it's really the colorist Fitzpatrick's fault. The art's very simple. I don't think there's much a colorist can do. And really, the art could be overlooked if the story was able to draw the reader in. You can't have bad art and a bad story. After I read this garbage tier SJW abortion of a story, I took a look at the creative team's Twitter. All far-left, racist lunatics. One of them retweeted AOC. I know if you are on the left that you've laughed at some of the silly things Trump has said, but AOC makes Trump look like Linus Pauling, Heisenberg, and Einstein combined. AOC is a legitimately dumb person. Trump just occasionally says dumb things. Read their Twitter if you want to laugh. In the first few tweets, I found them hating Germans in specific and white people in general. The colorist, Fitzpatrick, is one your boy mentioned a few days ago. She wants more women in comics and a comic union. The problem is that if Betty and Veronica team are examples of women in comics, then they aren't exactly sending their best. If women were producing high-selling comics, then there would be more women in comics. It's a self-correcting issue. It's like the myth of the wage gap. Stop and think about it. If I could pay women less, why would I hire men? It's Alyssa Milano level logic. Let's take a look. Cover? Okay, I guess. Kind of flat. The opening scene at the dance. Two girls dancing, African and Latina, because let's show the fraction of a possibility. Sure, why not? They show a brown girl, but they don't show her partner. Most readers don't stop to ask why. It's because race mixing makes alt-left types uncomfortable. Yes, really. If they draw a black girl with a black guy, part of the Twitter NPCs will say it's perpetuating a stereotype and needs to stop. If they draw her with a white guy, part of the Twitter NPCs will get equally upset, saying it's perpetuating black guys as undesirable. It's a no-win scenario. So they'll Kobayashi Maru it and make them lesbians or asexual or something. And for SJWs to portray a black guy with a white girl is absolutely haram. I'm not even kidding. It means that the black guy picked a white girl over a black girl, and that is problematic. The conversation with Moose, he says, all I wanted was tell Midge that I got my diploma. I did all this for her. I just wanted to be proud of me. That's kind of old-fashioned thinking, admittedly. So she responds in SJW speak. She is Moose, but she needs to figure out now what it is that she needs. And you didn't just do it for Midge. You did it for you, too, right? Fair enough. That's, it's the purpose is to say that people need to put their own interests first, put themselves first, which is true, but they're going to go into it a little bit further. Poor girl dancing by herself. I would dance with her. That's, okay, they make the main character look like a donkey. I'll say donkey all the time. And then they say that, Jughead, he says I'm going to be planning on studying journalism in college. Well, journalism, 99% of journalists are far left extremists, so the writers are signaling their values. Another thing they do in SJW Comics, notice the heights. They draw the men and women as equal as possible. So she is, on average, I think women in high school, senior year of high school, probably 5'4" on average. So that makes him, what, 5'5"? He says, actually, I made quarterback this year, a scout from Pickens. Okay, quarterbacks, guess what quarterbacks all have in common? Quarterbacks are taller than average because they need to see the receiver. So this is just asinine. They show the girl talking to the board, college admissions board, which doesn't actually happen. You just send them a letter and they send you a letter back. She says, I drove myself to exhaustion trying to be a model student, doing everything I can to impress Nameless, faceless boards that are paid to decide my fate. Somewhere along the way, I forgot about myself. That sounds like just the worst of Oprah Winfrey speak. Okay, nameless, faceless boards. You're literally sitting 20 feet across from this nameless, faceless board. This is just bad writing. She's not nameless and faceless. You're sitting across from her. She's just lame. I forgot about myself. They mentioned the theme of I forgot about myself. You're a high school kid, get over yourself, go to college, get a STEM degree. And then she leaves. She sees a Peace Corps message because, of course, we need to send little blonde girls overseas somewhere because they're so useful. They're not like they're engineers or anything. Yeah, idiots. Okay. I won't even mention. There's an algebra equation in the background in a chemistry class. It doesn't relate to. Never mind. Or I should say it's an expression, not an equation. There's a difference if you're a math nerd. They show him speaking to a purple-haired brown girl. The white guys are starting a fire. I should say they're either drawn as children or midgets. This is ridiculous. Can I do it? Did I zoom in on this? Okay. Purple-haired brown girl. White guys looking like total donkeys in the background. Starting a fire. Completely helpless. The brown girl has to put out the fire because the ongoing theme for SJWs is European and man is bad and non-European women is good. Then they show the white kid as dirty, disheveled, and shorter than the brown girl. Though, I mean, if you just want to look at the bell curve of heights in senior year of high school, average guy is probably 5'11". The average girl is probably 5'4". So I don't know where they're going with this. Then Archie, she puts out the fire, looks at the fire extinguisher, blasts himself in the face with the fire extinguisher because apparently he is actually retarded. In all these SJW books, the creative team makes a decision. Who looks good and who is the incompetent, bumbling idiot? Normal people will spread this around, but NPCs can't. Their program doesn't allow them to portray a non-European as the clown, so you end up with purse puppy brown characters who can do no wrong. It makes the characters flat and boring. I can tell you who the bad guy is in any SJW media, the German or the Englishman, every single time. The blonde girl, Betty, decides to go to Peru to help the poor brown people who don't need her help. Leave Latin America alone. Says, I was offered the opportunity to do volunteer work in Peru, and I think I'm going to do it for the summer, for the year, yada, yada, yada. Great. You have maybe get a bachelor's in engineering and then do something. You're just a 18-year-old idiot. You don't know anything. And then, of course, the affirmation, you're amazing, Betty Cooper. And then he says he's going to go become a nurse because he wants to help people. Well, then you're not so bad yourself, are you, Mr. Mantle? Okay, God. Shouldn't Betty be getting married and having kids or going to college to get a STEM degree or getting a job or starting her own business? Shouldn't she be looking out after her own interests, not the people in Peru? People in third world countries don't need 18-year-old Americans to help them. What unbelievable hubris. She says, he says, I'm going to miss you. I guess that also means there's no chance of us getting back together, i.e. we're not going to, get married, have kids, start a family. You're in the prime of your fertility. You're 18. You're ready to have kids or start a job, do something. She says, I think I need this time to really focus on myself. That's the theme, the ongoing theme. So why are you going to Peru? The character doesn't have a lot of money, so she's spending a year of prime earning time to go to Peru. It doesn't make any sense. Whatever. Betty and Veronica having a conversation where she was going to go to school to get a bachelor's in fashion design, and then she says, I think my skills are better suited elsewhere. I'm going to study psychology. Okay, that means you're going to get a bachelor's in psychology. That means you also have to get a PhD in psychology. It's a different amount of money you're spending on school, and it's also, you really, really have to want to be spending the next 4 years your BA and another 4 years for your PhD. So spending those 8 years. That's your prime fertility time. This is kind of a weird, subtle message they're sending. The crew at Archie and Veronica and Betty are a group of white people who seem to hate other white people. I don't understand how that works. Literally, in the first few tweets, I found them hating on Germans and whites in general. These people are all out and out racist. Another thing I noticed is that the left-wing comics mafia are all begging people for money. Cena Grace. You shouldn't... God, Cena Grace. Please, pretty please, pre-order Jughead's Time Police. Okay, thanks. Literally begging, like Mike Miller level begging. You can't expect to have a fair, well-balanced book when your creative team is 100% far-left, racist, and sexist. The far left claims that there are too many white men in comics. If you want to be perfectly fair, let's see who is overrepresented in the industry. Communists, socialists, Jewish, Muslims, homosexuals, Democrats. I mean overrepresented as a mathematical sense, as a percentage of the population total. Where are the pro-life Christian Republicans who are so openly pro-Trump? They're not allowed in comics. They are blacklisted. They're forced to sell their comics on Indiegogo. There was a study that showed that right-of-center people could understand the left-wing point of view, but the left-of-center people couldn't understand the right-wing point of view. This means that when you have these alt-left, hateful people creating comics, they can't help but create far-left racist comics. They are literally unable to write fair and impartial comics. If I had to guess, the comic is made for the 12 and under crowd, but even kids are going to read an issue and regret wasting their money. It's written by people who hate white people. Don't believe me? Read their social media. Anyway, leave a like and a comment.